Hi, everyone. Welcome back to one of your favorite podcasts. This is Columbus Chat Chat. Welcome, everyone. Nice to have you back one more time. I am teacher April. Nice to see you all. And with me, as usual, is teacher Charles.
Hello, guys. How's it going?
Over here, great. What about you? How are you doing today?
Well, I'm doing fine. I'm doing good. And yeah, I'm excited for today. Very interesting topic, actually.
Me too. And actually, we also have a great guest. I am very interested in making some questions to this guest. But before we introduce her, Teacher Charles, would you remind us all the platforms we're at where people can find us?
Yes, of course. We are almost in all of the social media, right? We are on Facebook, very active all the time. We are also on Instagram. We are on TikTok with very amazing content with teacher Pablo, very useful and practical. We are also on Google Podcasts, where you can find all of our podcasts. Just write the name Columbus School BCS in every of the social media. And also you can find us on YouTube. And remember to subscribe, share our videos, and of course, leave your comments so we can have more interactions with you guys.
Yes, we always love to listen and read from you. So send us a message on Facebook, on Instagram, whatever you want us to speak about. Who would you like us to interview? Everything and anything, please write. And now we're going to introduce our special guest today. She's teacher Exie. We also know her as Ms Rocha. Hello.
Hi, good morning. Hi, everyone. Nice to see you
Good
guys.
morning. Yeah, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So we would like to know a little bit more about you, Ms. Rocha. We know, a little birdie told us that you actually are a speaking examiner.
Yes, I am.
So what type of process did you go through to become a speaking examiner?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you very much for having me. This is very exciting for me. And as a speaking examiner, you realize how sometimes people are not very fully aware of what it means, what we do, and what they're going to be doing, right? And this part of the exam. And well, to become a speaker examiner, I had to go through a process where I had to do an induction and training course and get acquainted with the materials, the type of exam, all the procedures. And of course, I had to show proof of my expertise and my experience. And I'm a civil engineer, by the way. I'm a civil engineer, and I had the opportunity to live in the US for 11 years and work in a professional field. So I was able to get some experience with the language in a very professional way that helped me a lot to pursue my career as a speaking examiner, which I love, by the way, because even though I'm an engineer, as you know, I'm a teacher, I'm an English teacher, and that's what I think I was meant to be since the beginning of my life. But of course, I love engineering, but I don't teach engineering.
All right.
So you teach English, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And how did you discover that you like to be a teacher? I remember it in my own experience, in my own, point of view, how I experienced that when I realized that I liked teaching. So how was it for you?
Well, let me tell you, and this is a funny story because I remember the first time that I recall thinking of teaching, I was in junior high in 9th grade, which is 3rd grade, right?
Mhm.
And people from INEA came to my school, and they were looking for, of course, students. Some of the students that couldn't afford going to high school, and they were offering these scholarships so that you could go to one of the ejidos or secluded areas to teach. And I remember I was just, I was raising my hand the whole time and so interested in everything. And of course, I came home so excited, Mom, I want to become a teacher and go whatever and teach. And my mom said, hold your horses. No. Once you have a degree, you can do it. It was, like a family thing. You have to go to college first. And of course, my family had the opportunity to support me through my college. So it wasn't really an option for me. But I remember that. And of course, I put it in the back of my head. I never thought about it. I continued with my life. Actually, I became an engineer. My dad is an engineer, but I used to live in Mexico. And you have to be bilingual when you live at the border, right? Mm-hmm. And of course, I discovered that I was good at actually translating too, because I did some translating for my church, growing up, and I love it, right? And learning, of course, in this case, the Bible in Spanish and English, and getting to know how to say one thing in one language and in the other language, it helped me a lot. I learned that when you are learning a language, you have to learn the culture. It comes together. And again, if you're learning American English, American culture, but if you're learning, the British too, you have to go with that and learn and everything, the sayings and all that. So that's when, Charles, I discovered, years later, when I had the opportunity, the first opportunity I had, I started teaching in English. So that was the first time, and then finally, after years, after my career, I graduated and everything, I had the opportunity, and I went for it.
All right.
Yeah.
Very good, very good. Well, we know that exams are a very formal way of evaluating, right? And sometimes we know that because of that formality, students get very nervous. They get in a state that may or may not influence in some way the procedure, right? Or even their result, right? So I wanted to ask you if you think it's important to get prepared or a previous preparation for the exam. Do you think it's important?
Definitely. When you first, I think you have to decide whether you need or want to take the exam, and know that this doesn't come natural for most of us taking exams.
Yes.
So there's so many tools that you can use to get prepared. And one of the things also that you have to work with, I think, is to know exactly where you are in terms of being confident.
Okay.
And if you have to work on your confidence and speaking, or maybe listening, or maybe writing, then you have to work on that and know what are your strengths. Okay, maybe keep on going and on that, but then focusing on those things that you need to improve so that you can feel confident at the time of taking the exam, especially in the speaking exam. It's funny because I always tell my students when I do the preparation for them, I said, I don't really, as an examiner, I don't really care about your life, like meaning if you're lying or not. I'm focusing on how well you can express your thoughts, even if there's no truth, because sometimes they feel so worried about saying this or that, and then they're trying to find a way to express something as like, oh, don't worry about that. If you're pro or con about something, a topic that is being discussed, it's just the way you are able to show me that you know how to manage and disclosure that a way of saying things, right? Or express yourself.
Yeah, actually, that is something that I always tell to my students. For example, I try to tell them all the time, avoid the word I don't know whenever you're going to say something. And I say, I don't really care if you don't know something about a topic, but you have to be able to let me know that you don't know in the correct words, because what I'm interested in is your language, your oral expression. So you have to be able to get a grasp of anything that you know, or probably something that you heard about the topic, right? So you can complement the information, but you can declare from the very beginning that you are not aware of the whole spectrum of the topic that you are talking about. But if you start saying something like this to introduce that topic and also reinforce with any other knowledge that you have as a background, it'll be good, right? I always tell the same thing to my students. Some of them go like, teacher, and what if I don't do this or do that? Make it up.
become someone you know they like, or they know a little bit more about that, and even put in that hat of saying, you know, what would your mom would say, or have an opinion on this or that, or maybe your teacher, or maybe even a character in any show, right? How would he like or not like? Because sometimes, especially when they have to go in favor or against something, and like, oh, but I like something. It's like, okay, just become someone who doesn't like that or doesn't agree with that. What would they say? And then do it, right? And play it. Don't try to justify something when it's not that the reason you're here before. It's just to show me that you have the vocabulary and you have the ways of getting your point across.
Yeah.
Yeah, it happened to me in a test. Actually, I did a TOEFL a few years ago, and in the writing part, they asked me like, would you prefer, like, you want to get a job in this place, right? Would you send a letter, or would you go in person? And I was like, I think both are good. I will do the one first and then the other, and it shows this and that. And I think actually made my score go lower because I didn't complete the task of giving out which one would I prefer and give out my reasons for that. So I learned my lesson. And in the next certification that I did, I actually did that. And I think that is a great tip. Like, okay, this actually doesn't go with what I personally believe, but the point is not to get to know me, right? It is to get to see how I use the language, yes, and to see if I actually use it correctly. And it helps to play a character.
Right. And actually, also, depending on the vocabulary that you are used to and that you're learning, you have to find a position where you can use that. Because if you, let's say you have more vocabulary to express that you're not, or you do not agree with something, well, go with that, even though you agree with that. But if that is going to help you say, well, actually, let me rephrase that, or whatever, you know, whatever, it gives you the opportunity to show your vocabulary, disclosure, your speech.
It's pretty much using all the resources that you can have to express yourself. And yeah, and I personally think that the knowledge or experience that you have is proportional to the confidence that you will have sometimes. I mean, the nervousness that you can feel, the anxiety that you can get before or during the test, it's very common, but it has to be like leveled with the experience, with the language that you have. Of course, I always tell to my students that I started actually improving my speaking when I started to speak it. So that's the thing, right?
Basically.
When I started as a teacher, I remember that I was still a little bit reluctant to express myself in English with people that I could actually be in a safe place, right? Where I could make mistakes and not feel ashamed, right? But when I started as a teacher, I had to use it every day to all my students, and I started like thinking even more in English. So I got used to the structure and I got used to everything. So if I think in retrospective, when I was in university, for example, my speaking is completely different, right? I express myself more confidently. And of course, it has to do with believing that you have the tools and you have the skills to be able to express yourself. And also consider the thing or the idea that is constructing or is building up every day while you are speaking it, right?
And you know what? Also, different tools have different tips that I give my students, but I used to repeat after Dr. House everything they were saying, because once you get used to your voice, of course, at saying new words, and then you start seeing those words everywhere, excuse me, and hearing them more, right? And I remember the first time, like, lupus is not lupus, sarcoidosis, and all of those big words that sometimes you hear them, but if you need to say the word, it's so hard. And again, your brain needs practice. And I said, it's not just about singing songs, but just dialogues and on these old podcasts, you know, in these very, you know, high level professional topics, where you can learn more words and express, and instead, and it comes natural to say, instead of saying, I remember, and you can say, oh, I recall that, right? And it comes natural, because again, the level goes up, and you start using those words in your everyday conversation, right?
Yeah, there you go. Also, any content that you are consuming is very helpful, as you said. I really like to watch people that I know that are going to talk about very technical vocabulary or very specific. So I can, grab some words from here, from there. And I really like listening to Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yes, I love him.
Yeah, he has this way of
Yeah.
speaking, very clear. Every word you can pretty much understand them, and also there's something in the way that he talks, right? That is mesmerizing, and he uses very simple, concepts or metaphors to explain things that are very complicated, but he also uses very complex words that you can manage to use, and he uses a lot of synonyms. So he's an amazing example, like to follow, and also to be listening to all the time. Every time I go and ride my bike, I'm listening to Neil deGrasse Tyson in a podcast or something like that, because it's mesmerizing.
Yes, agreed, definitely. And also another thing about related to that is that even a joke or maybe a saying that comes, across, and then if I hear that, then I repeat it, because when I say it, then I can use it again. And it's so funny how sometimes even, in those kind of podcasts and stuff, and they mention something that is a saying, and it's like, oh, okay, I get it, right? And then I can use it.
Yeah, I actually as well, now that we are teaching virtually, right? I cannot hear or watch my students all the time. So I tell them, okay, if you find a word, whenever I'm speaking right now, you find a word that's new for you, or you don't know the pronunciation of, just keep repeating it after me. It's okay. You don't need to activate your microphone. Just start using it, because it has happened to me and still does. When I find a new word and I first say it, it is so foreign to me that it sounds like almost incorrect, right? I'm like, what is this? So we need to get used to listening to it and making it our own somehow, I guess.
Yes, I agree.
If this has happened to you guys, please send us a message.
Yes.
Comment here on Facebook.
It'll be very
Tell us your
interesting.
experience.
It'll be very interesting if you could share, guys, your experience with the speaking, because we all have a story behind speaking, right? Yeah. And we always try to make mistakes. If we are going to make mistakes, make sure that they are in the class so you can perform better in case you're taking a certification test or speaking test, right? Very important. And talking about the speaking test, we wanted to ask you precisely that, because we know that everyone, we learn through other people's experiences. So I think this is very rich to be speaking with an examiner from the point of view of an examiner. So I wanted to ask you, what makes a good candidate in a speaking test?
I guess that it's really nice when someone comes prepared. That's one of the things. Prepare in, again, the terms of they know that it's a speaking exam. The doesn't count, right? Words are the ones that are being rated, or not the oh yeah, same, right? That's one of the things. And also when they are willing to work for themselves, but also in the benefit of their partner. Because sometimes you can find a partner that is shy or there is a little nervous, and sometimes little things like even words that, what do you think? Or don't you think that? Something that can help the conversation keep going, and it helps you first of all, but also helps your partner. And once you, even if your partner has a different level than you, but if you show that it's part of what has been assessed right at that time, that you have the confidence to even interact with your partner, and that you're a good sport, basically.
Yeah, and one of the key points or the points that are going to be evaluated is precisely that, the active interaction, right? The interaction that there is with the other person that is taking the test with you. So I always say, I tell to my students this precisely, that you have to make it as natural as possible, because I don't know, 99.999% of all of the conversations that you will ever have in your life are not scripted.
Right, right.
So why
And-
are you like trying?
Right. And even with that, with a conversation comes some mistakes, natural mistakes. But I said, if you're able to come back from those mistakes and you said, I did go, right? It shows that you know the language, and it happens every once in a while. I said, in Spanish we said anaiga, I mean aja, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
even if you know it.
But you recognize that, and you know that it's a mistake, and then of course you correct it. And
Yeah.
sometimes in a conversation, I said, if you made a mistake and you can say, oh, I'm sorry, I meant this, right? Because of course they're nervous, and sometimes we make mistakes, but you know the difference.
Yeah, and something that I always notice is that, I don't know if this term has a translation in English, but we call them muletillas.
Uh-huh.
Right? That there are sounds or words that we repeat between sentences or clauses in order to give us a brief second to think about a little bit more. So in Spanish, sometimes they are very hard to forget or even stop using them. And I try to eradicate that by telling my students that try to do them in English also. So instead of going they better go like well, and or give me a second to think about that, something.
Now that you mention it, yes, of course.
Yes, of
Yeah,
course.
that's an interesting question.
Yes,
How can I rephrase that? Give me a second here.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, that's a very nice opportunity to show that you are actually like, using the language and thinking in the structure. And yeah, it shows off. It's kind of showing off that you are actually like in that mindset.
Exactly. And it shows the level of the language, the language that you have.
Proficiency.
That's
Very.
That's exactly what the speaking tests are for, right? You have to bring all your cards, put them on the table, and be like, look, I can use this phrase. I can, in a good way, exactly.
Exactly.
Because the sportsmanship kind of you were mentioning earlier, right? It is not about you giving out a monologue, but to show that you can give out your opinions, that you can talk about certain topics, that you can interact with a person, you can actually communicate on the language. And something I think is very important to take from all of what we've been talking, and the first thing I think Ms. Rocha opened with was be confident. So confidence is key, and I would like to go back to that because I think we have not got into this specifically before in the podcast. We like to give out tips, right, and tricks that have worked for us. But I remember clearly Ms. Rocha said earlier in the episode, you have to feel confident on your skills. So if you're not feeling confident, then maybe that's exactly where you should work on more so you can perform better when you're doing any test.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and practice it with mistakes. If you are afraid of, committing errors, it's part of it, right? It's part of the process. So, well, then fake it until you make it. You will make it. So that's the thing that I always consider. And also we have to consider the fact that we could very easily say, be confident, right? But it's something that has to be worked, right? Through your skills, through practice, through making mistakes. So be in the process and trust the process. That's the thing. We have no patience. That's the thing.
Yes.
And we want to, you know, in my head is perfect. When it's like coming out, it's a mess, right? And that's very common. So we have to train both, right? Both
Yes.
parts. So yeah, that's very remarkable. So we are almost coming to the end of this episode. But before we finish, we wanted to ask you something, right? Since this topic may help, we are pretty sure that it's going to help a lot of people that are concerned about a coming test, myself included, because I'm going to take a speaking test also. We wanted to ask you, what is the best advice that you can give to our listeners, right? To present a good speaking test.
I think one of the things, since it doesn't matter the level, it happens with the new students who are learning the language. The first thing that you have to get used to and comfortable with is your voice in another language. You're going to sound maybe funny for you in another language, but the most comfortable you get with your own voice, then you're going to be able to explore it, and then you do, whatever, because it takes, in order for you to do a good exam, you're probably going to have to vocalize, just like if you're going to give a concert, and that's okay. Talk to yourself every day in the mirror, pretty nice things, but say it in English and practice until you get very, very comfortable with even introduction. That was one of the main things. If you're not comfortable with introduction of yourself, and when you start talking in another language, most of people stop right there. It's like, and that's it.
Yep.
You have to be able to be natural. Don't get into learning big words for the exam. No. Learn how to express with big words, but then you feel comfortable and you can use it here and there and take it and use it. But I think that I would encourage everyone to take an exam. It's not about failing or approving or getting. It's about getting to know where you are and then work harder to get a level up. Because usually the first certification, it's not going to be the only one. It's not like, oh, I got my certification. It means you were able to get this far, so you can keep going. So keep working. You never will learn a whole language 100%, not even us in Spanish. But you're going to learn how to express yourself in a very natural way, right? In a very native speaking way, so that you're going to feel comfortable, and then you're going to be proud of yourself. And of course, with that comes the learning that I love about everything else. The world is there for you guys. So work hard and enjoy the ride, and you're going to get there.
There we go. Amazing.
That was lovely.
Yes, I really like it. This probably would have helped me many years ago. Yes, definitely.
Yeah, but it will help you in your coming.
Of course. I'm already writing down some things, mental notes. They are very important. And I mean, like, we are very afraid of failure, right? All the time.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, exams, they have that implication or a consequence, if you put it like that, of course. But think about it. Prepare yourself if you don't feel confident, and that preparation will give you the tools. And if you still don't feel confident for, I don't know, any reason, still try to talk to yourself. And also, you can record yourself and listen to your own mistakes. It takes time, actually. It's something that you need to be very, resilient about listening to yourself,
yes.
Acknowledging them.
It sounds so different, right? And that's what stops us. Like, I don't want to hear myself.
Yeah,
right?
I sound very differently. I sound like more serious in my mind, but whenever I listen to myself in a recording or this podcast, actually, I go like, do I speak like that? Do I really speak like that? So yeah, it's something that is very remarkable, and I think it's going to be very useful for all of you guys that are watching this.
And I don't know, just really quick, I don't know if you know, but the way you listen to yourself in the recording is the way that we perceive your voice. Because the way you perceive your voice is just because of your skull. I don't know if you know that.
Yes.
Sound in your skull. So it's actually, everybody else already knows that it's your voice. So don't worry about it.
It's only yourself that
it's only you, exactly, that notice the difference.
So That's funny. Yeah, it has been a process for me with the podcast as well. So we want to thank you so much, Ms. Rocha, for joining us and sharing all of this great, amazing tips, talking about this that can be pretty daunting to all of us learning a second language. So I really appreciate it. Thank you for joining and sharing.
You're very, very welcome. I really enjoyed this experience. And again, I love teaching English, and I think everybody can learn another language. So yeah, let's encourage especially our kids. If you speak only one other language, you're way behind. Right now in the world, you should be speaking at least 3 different languages to get around.
Yeah.
So let's do it.
All right.
Yes, I'll take that one too for me.
Yeah. Write it down.
Yep.
Very good. Thank you so much again.
Thank
Ms.
you.
Rocha.
Thank you.
We would love to have you back and get into more detail if you'd like as well.
Definitely. Thank you.
Excellent. And with that, we're going to close today's episode. Sadly, I think this was this episode has so much more that we can dive into. But let us know, guys, if you would like to get like a second part, or if there are specific questions that you would like to know from a speaking examiner. I mean, if I had the chance to talk to a speaking examiner before doing a speaking exam, I would definitely jump on that. Thank you for joining and listening to us today. We want to highlight our Facebook fans this week. Teacher Charles?
Of course. We are always grateful about your interactions. And whenever you like us or follow us or something, we are checking. So if you want to be greeted here in the podcast, go ahead, like us, share it, of course. We want to give a very nice shout out to our friends, Luis J.A. I don't know how to say that name specifically. So Luis J.A. and also Elisa Ayala that are always liking us and interacting. And there we go, guys. We are very, very proud of our audience. And also we want to congratulate you to be here listening to us.
Yeah, thank you so much for your support. As always, we will be here with you next time. We will still be very grateful to hear from you and to know more about what you think, what you would like. This is for you.
Yeah.
So
Remember,
we're always happy to know from you.
Remember all of the social medias. Well, almost all,
Yes.
right? We are on Facebook, of course, as we mentioned. We are on Instagram. We are on TikTok with Teacher Pablo. Amazing content. Go ahead, give it a like, share it, comment. And also you can find us on YouTube. Very, very nice platform with different videos. So you can watch our faces and also everything that we say. And of course, we are on Google Podcasts, where you can find all of the episodes organized by name. And even if you're looking one specifically, you can go ahead and write the name, but remember, always ask Columbus School BCS. All right, guys? So that'll be all for today, guys. Very glad to have you and see you on the next one. All right?
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.